A few days ago, some of you may remember, I reported on something which is new and potentially exciting in the form of epic dungeons coming to Destiny 2 in the future, as displayed on Bungie's artwork for Renegades right here, but also in the description for Year of Prophecy, Bungie refer to accessing the new raid and epic raid as well as dungeon, and given that we've been playing Destiny for some time, of course epic dungeon is something that we haven't heard of before, so like I said, this sounded potentially interesting. Bungie have now confirmed what an epic dungeon is though, and it turns out it is nothing. It doesn't exist. So the Destiny 2 team said, we're aware of an issue where the description for Destiny 2 Renegades currently lists epic dungeon access within Destiny 2. There will be a new pinnacle endgame content that'll be released during Renegade season, but it will not be in the form of an epic dungeon difficulty or activity. A fix for the description will be issued on June 3rd, that's a Tuesday, so sounds like it may also require a game update to update the sort of marketing for Year of Prophecy in the game, but Bungie adds we look forward to sharing more about this new approach soon, which is interesting wording because they don't specify what the new approach is, given that an epic dungeon doesn't exist. If you'd like more details on our plans though, they do link an article that they posted last year. It does make me wonder how this happens though, as not only is Epic Dungeon referenced in the artwork for Renegades, but also in the description for Year of Prophecy, where it even references the raid. I'm not sure if this is maybe like a scrapped plan or just a bit of marketing confusion. I will say that the bulk of Bungie's publishing regarding Year of Prophecy makes minimal reference to this outside of that piece of artwork, so maybe it's some confusion between Sony and Bungie, but importantly, Bungie clarify epic dungeons and raids are not actually a thing. Maybe it was an accidental reference to harder difficulties of those pieces of content. I definitely hope it wasn't an attempt to spice up the sound of these pieces of content, as obviously if that's not going to be a thing at this point, we all know Destiny too well to be fooled by that kind of terminology. Another interesting thing with the Renegades artwork, as we discussed, Bungie have updated the logo, going from one which I think is actually sort of a seasonal icon for Year of Prophecy to an icon which is far more Star Wars-y. And that's been a whole separate discussion and concern around Renegades. Players want it to be an authentic Destiny expansion, and not necessarily something which is too heavily inspired by Star Wars or even linked to Star Wars, because that just feels very cheesy, I guess. It does make me chuckle though that the devs were trying to calm nerves around this, saying it's inspired by, but it is canon Destiny, it's not going to be a Star Wars expansion. And then a couple of weeks later, they update the logo to be far more heavily Star Wars inspired. This might be a problem if Bungie have maybe taken money from Disney or Lucasfilm in order to produce this bit of content and promised a heavy integration with Star Wars, when at the same time they're telling the community, no, it won't be too Star Wars-y. It's like they're fighting two different battles, trying to please the publishers on one side while trying to keep the community happy on the other side, when they essentially want two different things, but that's a separate conversation, kind of. So what are Bungie's actual plans regarding raids? Well, going back a few months to the article they posted, it seems like this is still the plan. Of course, we're getting a new raid in codename Apollo, or Edge of Fate, and Bungie say raids will continue to offer a complete pool of exclusive weapons, armor, and exotics that can be obtained at higher tiers by taking on additional challenge. But they will be introducing something called raid feats. So the iteration of master raids and challenges have followed a similar format for a few years, and Bungie want to change that. So starting with Edge of Fate, new raids will support a raid-specific form of challenge customization, where players can select modifiers called feats, and these will expose and enforce rules, such as time trials, contest combatants, and other mode modifiers unique to the raid. And the more feats active during a run, the better chance to earn higher tiered rewards. Additionally, Bungie spoke about something called a Raid Challenge Update, and in the first major update following Edge of Fate, which will actually drop in September, the raid will receive a challenge update, adding new rewards, mechanics, new feats, and potentially even new encounters. This update will kick off with a raid race event and be a venue for experienced raiders to further challenge their skills. And in addition to the highest tiers of the raid rewards being available from these challenges, new and exclusive rewards will be added as well, including new weapons and a catalyst for the raid's exotic weapon. And of course, while I'd love to see more brand new endgame content added throughout the year, I do think at the same time, raids, given that they're such large pieces of content, definitely have not always been utilized to their full potential. So this is interesting, and Bungie will confirm more about it soon. Otherwise, in terms of new dungeons, they say the second expansion of the year will of course include that brand new dungeon. It won't be an epic dungeon though, keep that in mind. They did add though that of course we no longer need a separate dungeon key, and additionally the reward offering for new dungeons will be expanded to include full weapon and armor sets on par with raids. So moving forward they won't have the slightly reduced loot pool, but there'll be far more rewards to chase. However, Bungie haven't clarified whether they plan to update dungeons in the same way that they're going to do with the raid updates. And to be fair, when I first saw Epic Dungeon, I kind of thought maybe it could be something to do with that, but probably won't be a thing. Otherwise though, Bungie do reference a new rad event, and they're referring to Pantheon from Into the Light. And they had said a few months back in the 4th major update of the year, they're planning another event that introduces novelty and allows our team to experiment with legacy raid and dungeon offerings to create surprising aspirational challenges. So whether it's Pantheon or Rite of the Nine, Bungie are planning to do something on that spectrum once again with the 4th major update of the year, which I believe is actually planned for March 2026, so a while away from now, but obviously the goal is to fill the gap until the next expansion drops, in the way that Bungie have done in the past with Pantheon, and what they've attempted to do with Rite of the Nine. So it's interesting to recap on that. I guess one of the positives is that while Bungie have confirmed the epic dungeon and raid content to not actually be a thing, they did essentially confirm that they're still on track to deliver what they planned and outlined in those original blog posts that we've just discussed. So we get the new raid in July, that's the same week that the expansion drops. So Edge of Fate is on the 15th, and then the raid is on 19th, which is actually the Saturday of that week. Then in September, when we get the Ash and Iron update, there'll be an additional thing that expands on that raid. So really, that is the update for today. A bit of a weird blunder from Bungie again. I still find it weird that you accidentally invent a new name or something that sounds like a new iteration on these activities in the form of epic raids and dungeons. Unless, of course, this is going back in development where there were additional plans for these pieces of content that have now been changed. We'll probably never know, but despite all of this, I'm still looking forward to the year of content and interested to see what Bungie deliver overall. I'm even open to the Renegades thing with the Star Wars inspiration, but I definitely align with the community with regards to hoping that it is not overly cheesy in terms of the integration with the Star Wars component. The fact that they've updated that icon to look more Star Wars-y, I do find it perhaps a little bit concerning, because like I said, kind of feels like Bungie are trying to keep both sides happy, where obviously they've got some kind of deal with Star Wars. The fact that they've changed that icon suggests that there is an expectation inside of that contract for Bungie to Star Wars it up to a certain degree, but at the same time, Bungie know that fans of Destiny find that a little bit too cheesy and potentially spoils the integrity of Destiny lore and the universe in itself. So that's going to be one to watch, but it's half a year till we get to that point, so we'll see how it pans out. For today, give us your thoughts down below. If you've enjoyed the video, or found it interesting at the very least, a rating would really help us out as well, and get subscribed so I can keep you posted with more Destiny content. But otherwise, thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon.